going? Welcome to Tell You What, the podcast, where we talk with musicians about songwriting and the creative process. Our guest today is Margo Cilker, whose excellent debut full-length record, Pohorylle, was released late last year. I'm joined here in the Tell You What Epiplex by our executive producer and spiritual advisor, Susan. Always good to have you here.
It's really nice here.
The Epiplex is pretty sweet, right?
It's sweet.
Now, in this episode, Susan, our guest, Margo, brings up an excellent question. She's asked something like, how many of our guests have mentioned playing at open mics? I'm so glad you are here with me because you happen to have at your fingertips, right, a powerful database of all things Tell You What that you have masterminded and maintained. Mm-hmm. Correct?
Correct.
So you were able to answer this question.
The database, yes.
You have the database.
The database tells us the answer.
So how many of our guests have mentioned playing at open mics?
4 have mentioned it.
4 have mentioned it.
Didn't always ask, but yes.
It's not that many, but only because I never specifically asked about open mics.
Perhaps.
Maybe I should start asking.
Maybe.
But 4 guests have brought it up on their own while talking about their musical journeys.
Right.
All right, glad we got that straight. Open mics are awesome, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
If you happen to live in our neighborhood, the neighborhood of the Tell You What Studios Epiplex, which is the greater Chicago, Evanston area, please come check out the open mic that Susan and I help facilitate over at Grandpa's Place in Glenview, Illinois, every Tuesday night at 7:30, right?
Right.
If you live somewhere else, you should find your own open mic. We have a lot of fun. We've made a lot of friends. These local open mics give people the space to be creative, make some joyful noise, sing along, or just watch and support the community. I think a lot of people would be surprised at how welcoming and encouraging many open local mic communities are, aren't they?
No apologies.
No apologies at our open mic.
That's the rule.
That's our first rule. Yeah, so give it a try. Find an open mic. All right, so let's talk a bit about this episode. I first heard Margo's music earlier last year when she released a couple of singles from this record. The music grabbed me right away. I was able to talk with her in December after the record had been out for just a bit. In the meantime, since then, her music has attracted some serious attention. I just saw the Americana radio album charts, and there was her album, Pohorylle, at number 9 and rising, sitting alongside Billy Strings, the Lumineers, Brandy Carlisle. Pretty good for a first try, but really great to see her music getting the attention it deserves. I discussed with Margo the making of her album, Pohorylle, and she talks about working with Sera Cahoone as producer on the record. Sera, a very talented singer-songwriter herself. We talk about Sera's decision to bring in Jenny Conley to play piano and keyboards. Jenny Conley from one of our favorite bands, the Decemberists, right, Susan?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Those Portlandia fans listening may also know Jenny from her role as the musical act Sparkle Pony in the early Portlandia episodes. You remember Sparkle Pony?
Yes. Now I can picture her and hear her.
Yes. Anyway, as Margo says, Sera Cahoone's instinct to bring Jenny in was dead on. The piano and keyboard sounds on this record add some real magic to these songs, surprising even Margo with how well it worked. It is clear that Margo is a real talent. This record is so great. I would put her maybe in a category with a couple of my other younger recent guests like Buffalo Nichols, Katie Kirby, Katie Pruitt, who, while they came out of the gate with stellar, critically acclaimed debut records, they are also just kind of figuring out what they are good at, gaining full use of their powers, such that I really, really look forward to seeing what they, and in this case, Margo, come up with in the near future. So let's get to it. Here is our Tell You What discussion with Margo Cilker. All right, Margo Cilker, welcome to Tell You What, the podcast. So glad you chose to take the time to talk with us today.
Thanks for having me, Mike. Yeah, let's dig in.
Yeah, let's dig in. Let's set the scene. I am at the Tell You What Towers Multiplex in Evanston, Illinois. You are in the West Coast in California. Do I have that right?
You got it right.
All right. Your wonderful album, Pohorylle, has been out for a little while now, getting some well-deserved attention. This album was a long time coming. How does it feel to reflect on these songs now that they've been out breathing in the world for a little bit, finally?
Reflecting on songs. Well, it feels good to have them out there. It's been interesting to watch people kind of interpret them. And sometimes I find they're spot on, and sometimes I think they're out in left field, but that's also what you do. You hand it out, you give it out, and that's they take it, and it's theirs now, and that's what you can do.
Well, we'll see how I do today.
Yeah. I don't know. I like having kind of a little more ambiguous, some more ambiguous themes and stuff in my music, and I don't know. There's enough love me do's out there. May as well throw some more song content out there.
Absolutely. We're going to get to that ambiguity a little later for sure.
Yeah.
Let's go back in time now, if we can, for a little bit. Can you talk about musical memories you may have from your early years, some of the music that was around in your home or community when you were young that maybe has made its presence known in what you're creating now?
Well, I grew up singing in church, and I grew up going to Presbyterian church, and I was in church choir and in musicals, and just always in some kind of music program. And so, music of the church definitely impacted me as a musician, being able to sight read music in the choir and follow harmony lines in the hymnal,
Right.
I mean, but it also is just kind of I would sing with my grandmother and my sister and my cousins, and it just kind of flowed. We weren't up, it's just something that we'd just click into it. We didn't really think about it very much.
Yeah.
We were all studying music and we all loved music, but then that singing together, just breaking into song and dance, that's something that existed in a very hokey way in my childhood, and I was a boisterous child, needless to say. Out of control, boisterous, punchy.
Punchy.
I was kind of punchy. I was very spirited. I had a lot. My parents would call me a personality donor.
Do you consider your voice then your first instrument?
Yes, I would, yeah. I remember singing in the kindergarten graduation pageant, or I just have memories of always being up on the risers performing. That was always a thing. And then I took piano lessons, and that started when I was really young, and then I quit piano at some point. And picked up guitar when I was in 6th grade. There was a lunchtime guitar class, and it was wonderful. It was laid back and kind of focused on it's kind of like voice and guitar together. I wasn't learning guitar songs. It was I'm learning chords so we can accompany our singing. And that was a cool angle to just jump right into. And, it's been hard to retrofit my guitar playing to be just more based on the music. Just from the get-go, it was all right, we're going to learn how to play Hound Dog. Yes. It was chords, singing, we just wrote a song, boom. It's and I took that formula and I took it and ran with it, and I started patching songs together and I absolutely loved it. But yeah, it's hard to now separate the guitar from the voice,
So when you say patching songs together, you talking about writing original material or figuring out existing songs?
Well, definitely both. But yeah, I wrote a lot of songs just in high school. I guess I just started coming up with stuff, but nothing I would play out. And then when I went away to college, I started playing my songs I had written on the open mic circuit. So, open mics, Yes. I'd be curious to know what percentage of your artists that you interview do not mention the open mic circuit.
Well, there is a database that my executive producer has put together of commonalities between my guests.
Oh my
we'll have to add the open mic category to that, and then we'll get back to you.
You should.
As an open mic host myself, I am interested in the answer to that question.
Man.
So college was when you first started performing songs you had written yourself.
Yeah, I'd been kind of building up to that, and I was studying in the Southeast. I was at Clemson University in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really into these like kind of post-country songwriters in Nashville, like Tristan, Caitlin Rose, like Andrew Combs. Are you familiar with that contingency? Yeah, like their songwriting to me felt like kind of more polished than the country I had been exposed to, right? You have these writers that are like in Music City and in the heart of the beast, but they're making, like, maybe took a classic country chord progressions and like changed them a little and then wrote about kind of more personal, like deeper emotions than just she broke my heart, he broke my heart, you know. It was a little deeper, more about like existence, more about, you know, just kind of like, it's funny, maybe it's the vein of like emo music that influenced everyone. Like, I don't know what it was. It's so interesting, but it was just more.
Well, that was happening at the same time.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Emo.
Yeah. So I mean, that's interesting how that their songwriting just felt a lot more exciting to me. You know.
Yeah. Did you have other creative pursuits along the way? Creative writing, anything like that?
Not really. I mean, I was studying language, and I took like a bunch of English courses because I just like loved reading, and I thought English was interesting. But you know, I was non-committal. I didn't want homework. You know, like I knew I wanted to make a band, or I don't know. I was a very passionate student, but you know, I wanted a little bit of everything, and I just wanted to feel an inspiration more than like have discipline, you know.
Well, let me ask you this: your major was not music,
correct?
Right?
Yeah.
You just said. So, was a creative life something that was encouraged or tolerated within your family?
My parents, like they knew that they couldn't like extricate the music from my life. You know, it was very clearly something that is not gonna can't be suppressed or.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, no parent loves to hear that their kid wants to drive around and they're living out of their car, chasing songwriters, and I don't know. Like, I mean, it's hard to sell that to parents.
Believe me, I know.
Yeah, it's a tough sell, right? And like in their defense, I mean, geez, like I can't say I'd wish that upon my child.
but tolerated at least, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was more like. Definitely make something of yourself, but you know, I don't work hard, make it happen. It's like, okay, that's what you want to do. Well, then go do it. But you know, or maybe like set the timer. You know, here we go. Like that's fine if that's what you want. Go do it. But you know, you're still off our health insurance when you turn 26. You know, I mean, and that's the thing. There are these like that's just growing up, and there are these things there are natural pressures to get your music off the ground, right? There are mounting pressures just of like growing up and being independent that help kind of push you along.
Take a realistic approach.
Yeah.
Yes. So from your perspective, when did you realize that this is something you had to keep doing, writing and performing as your primary function as opposed to as a pastime?
Well, I mean, I would just say like the general obsession with it. I mean, the tears, the drama. I mean, it's just, I care so much, you know, it's like just the absolute obsession. Yeah.
But it was always there. You always thought this is where you were headed.
I think so. I mean, I didn't really know how to do it, but I mean, there are definitely moments when I was like 18 or, you know, in my like 18 or 19 when I would like start going to festivals and like seeing people on stage and like, it's like, okay, it's like, I know a B minor chord on the guitar. Like, I can do this, you know, or like, it's not, you know, it's kind of like, you kind of peek behind the curtain and it's like, well, I can do this. I know I can do this.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just that audacity, I guess, to pursue it. And then, you know, you ask any creative and they'll say, like, you know, what's worth it about songwriting and performing to you? What makes it worth it? And it's like, well, we have a really rich community and we have these beautiful memories and we're traveling and there are all these awesome things, and like, what a hack to be able to make that my daily mission, you know? I mean, you know, it's like, best case scenario, I would have spent my 20s traveling around. It's just, I had like an even better way to do that, you know?
Right. That's great. Well, let's talk about your creative process a bit if we can.
Yeah.
As a songwriter. So do you find you have a consistent practice, say sitting down at regular times of the day, see what arises, or does it tend to come in streaks, or you wait till something strikes you and you work with that?
I don't have a strict. I don't have. There's a little bit of a pattern, you know, I will say, but I feel like my life has just been too all over the place to have like a writing practice, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know. Do I have a home office? Like, do I have a desk? I don't know. I just moved. Like, I'm still figuring that out. Yeah, I do like writing in the morning. That's definitely the time when I work with my songs is definitely in the morning. I mean, that's just like the richest time for me to be creative is just waking up, to be alone in the house and have time with my music. That's definitely the best case scenario.
Mm-hmm. Are there any practices you have to try and summon the right mind space? Walking, driving, meditation, those kind of things?
Yeah, so walking, I mean, obviously, I usually sit down first and, like, I sit with the songs, and something I do is try to resolve, you know, I'll, like, work on the current song I'm writing. I usually have one beast at a time that I'm trying to tame, you know? Okay. And then I'll, like, you know, okay, I'll be like, okay, I have the first verse, and I have the chorus, and I need that second verse, you know? And I'll spend the morning just hacking it to death, and then it's like, okay, I have to step away. I'll go walk up the hillside and, like, literally walk around singing. And this is where it came in handy to live in a place like rural eastern Oregon. So I could just literally walk around and, you know, just sing my songs out to the elk on the prairie. Like, that's really nice, you know.
Well, this leads me to another question. A number of your songs don't follow a straight narrative arc, right? They sometimes, to me, seem like different reflections on a theme or a thread. Interesting what you just said, that you work on one song at a time, because it seems to me songs like this might come in pieces over a period of time. You might find something later that, this is what I was talking about back then.
Yeah, that definitely happens. And actually what I was going to go back to is that I have like a song I'm working on at a time, because that's what's spiked my curiosity, and I want to see how the song's going to end, right? It's that interest in the song. And then if that falls flat, then I do like song resolution, and I have my like bone pile of songs, and then it's like, okay, let's see if I can resolve one of these pieces. Okay. And that's a great practice, and it's not always, sometimes it's like better to just get it done and tie it up, and it's a good practice for songwriting, of course, to just, even if you don't love it, it might not be your hit, but you just finished a song. And like Elizabeth Gilbert, I really like her approach to creativity, and she writes about that a lot. Just like finish the damn thing, turn it in, start the next one. Don't dwell on it. Like for God's sake, like there's, I don't know. Keep
the agony momentum of the unfinished product.
Yeah, the agony. Like you can just drive yourself insane.
So do you usually have the guitar with you when you're in that songwriting mode?
I do. And then, like, obviously, when I'm out walking, I don't have the guitar, but usually I have the bones of the melody, and I can just hum it, or, you know, I'll just sing it. Yeah. But, yeah, my acoustic guitar usually, and then sometimes the electric will help just bring some new spice, you know, but usually it's my acoustic guitar.
So if you get a lyric or a theme that starts the song, does it have a melody attached to it in your head as it comes out, or is there written words that then you try and work into a melody?
It's usually a melody and words that come to me. It's usually like the hook. It's actually usually the hook, and then I'll like write around that. Yeah,
that makes sense from listening to your music. Yeah. Okay, we're going to get back into your history a little bit here and tie it in. You have lived in places that I know of: California, South Carolina, Spain, Oregon, right?
Yes, and a little bit in Montana.
Okay. These are 4 really different places in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. We can see the references lyrically to these different parts of your life in your music, and thematically in the songs as well. We'll talk about that when we talk about the songs, but I want to ask you if you think there are musical influences from these different places that show up in your work, like in the sounds or in the creative styles or choices.
That's interesting. I was kind of lured to Appalachia. You know, like, I got really, like, bluegrass and string band, like, that kind of vibe definitely, like, pulled me east. And then it was, like, I don't know, moving to Spain, we were playing rock. Like, we played a lot of Rolling Stones, and we would play Ryan Adams and Lucinda Williams music, and just like it was like full Americana, you know, like it's basically like Lost Highway Records, top to bottom discography, you know, like it was. I got deep into that world.
I've heard from several artists about the appreciation that European fans have for traditional American music, particularly the Americana style.
Yeah, you know, and maybe I thought, like, there was a time, I mean, you know, the California bluegrass world is, like, it runs deep, too. There's, like, the tradition out west is, you know, it's deep, and I think I kind of had to let go, though, because I lyrically liked things that were more broad in scope.
Yeah.
That strayed a little deeper into the psyche, I guess, or, you know, songs about fixing problems, right? I mean, romantic issues aren't the only problems we have to solve. Like, it's relatable to everyone, but it's like, we have so much to figure out, you know? And I like songwriting that delves into that. And like Neil Young, I don't know, there's plenty of that in so many different writers, and then you have so many different perspectives depending on who you're listening to. But, I mean, I love writers that have the audacity to kind of take on greater issues, I guess.
Yep. Let me ask you this. Your lyrics and the imagery in your lyrics often, at least from my perspective, allow the listener to conjure up their own stories, right? We talked about we referenced the ambiguity earlier. Some of these songs have been around for a while, right?
Yeah.
Has your relationship to these songs changed over time? Maybe your internal stories changed at all regarding some of these songs?
I mean, I haven't had a chance to tour these songs. I haven't physically played them hundreds of times to a live audience, you know?
Oh, okay.
Because I haven't had the chance due to COVID.
Right.
Some of them, though, I've played, let's say, 100 times at shows. Or, like, you're asking kind of like, does the story for me change over time? Sometimes, little things are kind of uncovered from my songs to me. You know, I'll have little revelations about the songs, and it's like, that's always funny when your song speaks to you in a new way.
Or maybe you wonder if this is what you were writing about in the first place.
Well, it's like the song Barbed Wire Belly Crawl. That song, I played that for a couple of my friends, and the friends I played it for happened to be mothers, and they just, like, that song wrecked them emotionally. They just, like, it hit such a chord with them, you know? And that was very revealing and interesting. Sometimes you don't really know who you're writing for, and then you'll, like, you know, you don't control that. That's just what it is. But, yeah, it's weird introspection to, like, look at these songs and say, this is what you think of the world, or, like, this is what you're, you know, it's strange. I'll give it that, yeah. It's weird.
Yeah. Let's talk about this great album for a minute, Pohorylle. I want to ask you about your experience working with a producer. In this case, Sera Cahoone, right?
Yeah.
You seem to work alone in your songwriting, right? No co-writes that I could see.
Yeah, correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And the music you recorded previously, I think you recorded yourself for the most part?
Yeah, well, it was like with other engineers and stuff, but it was, I'm a very personal, it's mostly me.
So now you have these songs, they're complete in the sense they have beginning, middle, end, completely your vision. And now you bring someone else in to kind of open these songs up to their interpretations, right? So was that hard or scary to allow someone else to kind of crack these songs open?
Well, working with Sera's just so seasoned with arrangement and letting the song speak for itself. I mean, she just has this sensibility about not overcrowding the song itself, you know, keeping the song central.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there were a few things I was... you know, it's like, I want Wine in the World to sound really sad, or like, you know, to feel I want everyone to know how sad I am about this, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I want that to come through. I want the vocals on Kevin Johnson not to sound too soft or, like, too nice. You know, I want a little bit of raggedness here. Or, like, there are things that were important to me. But those are all things that I could tell Sera, and we made it happen, you know?
Yes.
And, like, I don't know. I knew I had the instinct to work with a singer-songwriter because I know how many songwriters' records I've had to listen to in my career as a songwriter. And just imagine someone who's been at it that much longer and, like, what it takes for production to stand out and for production to honor the song, you know? It's like I knew someone, like, that was a singer-songwriter would have that ear for it.
Right.
And I mean, I just feel like, honestly, I feel it was just auspicious. Like, working with Sera was a complete gut instinct thing, and it ended up being incredible, and it was healing, it was positive, it wasn't a power struggle, it wasn't negative in any way, which is insane.
Yeah, I think the arrangements are just awesome. I love the piano. Something about the piano sounds so honest and direct, which kind of matches your lyrical style and your vocal style. The percussion, the drums on some of these songs, the way that just bounces and shuffles us along without being too overpowering is just so great. Were you surprised at how some of these arrangements worked out?
Well, I mean, I didn't even hear piano on this record. If you had asked me to bring the band together, I probably would have I wouldn't have even thought of piano, honestly.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, we gave Jenny Conley the first pass. Like, we tracked guitar, bass, and drums with a scratch vocal, and then we gave Jenny first pass with piano and keys. That's the smartest thing we did in the studio.
Yeah.
Because I think it did. It kind of brought it. It kind of brings it down to earth immediately. You know, it's like, we're not messing around. This isn't like, we're not here to, like, just paint the pretty palette. It's like, somehow it lends it kind of, it's like kind of more of a throwback maybe, or like, I don't really know what edge it kind of lends it, but it's kind of like bigger than a rock and roll arrangement, or I don't know.
It's striking in some way. I couldn't put my finger on it either, but the piano really stood out to me for sure. Let's talk about maybe a couple of these songs in particular. Okay, opening song, That River. Mm-hmm. I usually try and avoid the questions or comments that artists hear a lot of, but I really can't help myself here.
That's fine.
Okay, you know where this is going probably. I think a great opening line in a song can be so important. I forget what songwriter said something like, with a good song, since it's a short form, you are dropped in the middle of an ongoing story, so the opening line is critical, right? So here we have this opening line, which I'm sure you've heard repeated back to you many times. That river in the winter, it could fuck me up. Now, we're certainly dropped into a story here, like, why is this narrator so worried about this river? This line not only opens the song, but it opens the album. I'm guessing this was not a difficult decision to make, to open the record with this song and this line. Am I right?
Yeah, it was not a difficult decision.
Yeah. A number of your songs have great opening lines. Is this something you specifically focus on?
I don't know if it's something I focus on. I guess it's just that, like, I like pizzazz. I get so bored listening to music. I I just get so bored. And there's a lot of writers out there, like, it's like, okay, we'll get there. Okay, I'll give you the first verse. Like, we'll see what you do with the chorus. You know, it's like, but if I'm already wishing I was listening to another album, like, you lost me, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. The audience doesn't owe me anything, you know? And I think it's a privilege to have an audience, and that's why I take it upon myself to try to grab people, I guess.
Yeah.
That river in the winter, it could fuck me
song, that river, is a complex song lyrically. We're going to talk about ambiguity here again, if we can. In this song, there's like this magical balance between personal reflection and maybe more universal messaging that hits home for the listener. And there's a lot of that in your lyrics. You kind of leave breadcrumbs for the listener without being too direct, right?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So how thoughtful are you about finding that sweet spot?
The breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
It's kind of a hokey song structure thing, but it's like, here, like, first verse is going to be personal, second verse is going to be a little further away, and then third verse is like, we are the world.
Yeah.
And hopefully I don't go full we are the world every time. But, and like on Tehachapi, for example, right? It's like, you have the, like, mundane, and then a little deeper, and then the, like, the allegory, or like the cautionary, like, I don't know, the motto, or I don't know, what's the word I want?
The lesson.
The live, laugh, love.
There we go.
I don't know. The lesson, like the call to action, let's say.
Okay.
I don't know. I always like that. Like, you're kind of like, where's this person going? Like, okay, we get it. Like, this is a weird setup. What's the message?
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, did you grow up going to church?
Oh, yes.
So, it's like the most, I mean, I have listened to so many sermons that just start with the most, like, you are just way out there, and it's like, somehow this is going to tie back.
Right.
But it's a hell of a ride to get back, let's just say.
And it's so rewarding when you get back there, and the dime drops, as they say,
exactly,
right?
Exactly. Yeah. And like that, I mean, I love songwriting as a form of oral tradition, and like the legacy of that is super interesting to me. And like, I think it was Bob Dylan. I don't know if it was Dylan talking about someone else, or someone else talking about Bob Dylan. Maybe it was Dylan talking about Woody Guthrie or something, but it's like, these are songs that teach you how to live. These aren't just passing fancies. Like, these can help you know what to do.
Yes. And that gets back to that sweet spot between personal reflection and universal appeal of a song. It has to hit that in order for people to take the lesson themselves.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, definitely. I mean, it's opening the door for them. It's certainly, like, making it easier.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see what other songs resonate with me. Do other artists open that door for me? And is that important? Or are we able to just hear someone give their first person narrative and we just find our way? Like, does it have to be so explicit? Like, because I err on the side of it. I kind of make it explicit sometimes, like the life lesson, and it's like kind of corny, but I don't know.
I would say you err on the other side most of the time.
Okay.
Not being explicit, and I think that's why it works. You leave it to the reader to find his way, the listener, let's say.
Yeah.
You brought up the song Tehachapi. Let's go there. This is a fun song. It stands out a bit in the album in terms of musical style, right? I love the New Orleans-y horn sounds.
Yeah.
Playful song. You reference the Little Feat song Willin' a couple of times, including the throwing in the chord progression riff there. Brought this song about, and can you talk about how maybe it stands apart a bit in vibe from the rest of a lot of the other songs on the record?
This song kind of just became the source for joy and exuberance against the other songs, and like it's kind of somehow became the like lighthearted, more triumphant track, and that's certainly, like you just said, like it is a little different, and I was grateful that I came up with something that was fun, that I truly felt like the audience might have fun listening to, not like, okay, sit back, everybody,
Put the Kleenex aside for a second.
Yeah. I mean, I was working on a farm when this song was inspired, and it was like I had my lunch break, and I was sitting outside my little humble abode, picking the guitar, and it was like just a very pure and, it came from a a very grounding time for me. I was burned out from touring and I was just working on a farm, and that really, it was so healing to me.
Yeah.
And you know, you get to think about the road when you're not traveling as much, and that was my time to kind of think about the Southwest and, you know, driving along the desert. You know, it was a world apart at that time because I wasn't out touring.
You worked on the water, and I worked in the pasture, and the fog rolling in the petaluma night brought those two together. Will you think of me? Will you think of me? Will you think of me on your way back to Tehachapi? Will I cross your mind down to 99? Will you think of me on your way back to Tehachapi?
Yeah.
Your sister sings with you on this record.
Mm-hmm.
Has she always been part of your musical journey?
She basically always has been, yeah. Like, when we were in high school, we started kind of performing here and there as a duo. When I play guitar. She plays guitar as well, but mostly it's like I would play guitar and we would sing harmony. And that was like our party piece at Thanksgiving for the family, and we were just tapped. It was like funerals, weddings, all of the above, you know? So we were like a gigging duo, kind of just like by default, I guess.
Well, it must be fun to be able to bring her in on your records now.
Yeah, and it's really amazing how it's kind of lasted. And I mean, there's so much uncertainty. I could barely depend on, if you look at it, given how many different bandmates and iterations of the band I've had, like, it doesn't make sense that my sister would fit in, you know, just based on like where I'm living and this and that. But it was kind of relieving to kind of find my way back to the West Coast, and it's nice that we're both in the same place relatively, and I actually can't track harmonies on my own singing. I can't. It sounds so unnatural to me to overdub my own harmony parts.
Huh.
Because it's like there's a voice that should be doing this, and it's my sister's.
That's interesting.
I mean, it's just I cannot for the life of me.
So you go to the source.
Yeah, I just like it was like I couldn't. Why would I? You know, and it's just so funny. I just all overdub guitar parts and this and that, but like when it comes to my harmony singing, like the harmony parts, it's just like I've had to do it a couple times or like try to do it, but it's just not something. It's not something I like. I've just been spoiled, I guess. Yeah,
you're lucky to have her.
I am lucky to have her, and it's it's really incredible like source of healing for us to travel together and just go on these like adventures together that we'll talk about the rest of our lives, you know.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, there's nothing like when we were just like saddled up and driving around together, meeting people, and I mean, we really lucked out, you know. It was just like, it was really, I'll cherish, you know, it's just something I'll cherish, and as long as she can put up with me, I'm excited to collaborate with her.
That's great. I want to talk about the song Kevin Johnson. You mentioned it earlier. I am intrigued by this song because of the creative choice here. You bring in kind of traditional Southern folk styles musically. You talked about the raggedness of the sound, as well as in some of the lyrical choices, you know, sitting on Pappy's knee, that kind of phrasing. But as the song rolls along, there's darkness underneath here. The truths maybe of the song or the character are belied by this traditional presentation, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was reminded of Randy Newman's amazing album, Good Old Boys. I don't know if you know that one, but...
Oh, cool. Yeah,
Yeah, he brings out these dark truths about traditional Southern American life, but using characters and musical styles of the times, and it is so powerful.
I'll
This
have to
approach
listen
can...
to that. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. This approach can go wrong creatively, I think, pretty easily, but you pull it off here really well. How did you arrive at this choice to kind of take on this idea using this traditional sound and language approach?
Well, this song arrived out of necessity. Like, it's not something I want to do with my art, just blatantly write, there's an annoying guy I know, he's from the South, why is he,
Right.
why, nobody wins with that if I were to do it. It wouldn't be doing myself a service as an artist, because my end
To do
game,
it straight.
Yeah, to do it straight. I don't know. And more than anything, it's like, why, right? Get to the root of the problem. There's always, is this a symptom? Let's dig deeper. There's always deeper systemic things at play, and I guess it's just my way of, like, deconstructing a behavior I saw or a person I met, Yeah, and I mean, the song is what it is. Like, all kinds of people bop to it, and it's their,
Yes.
It's up to them to take away what they want, and for me, it was something that felt good to do and good to put out there.
But by doing it in this style, maybe you felt you would bring the audience in maybe a little more easily.
Well, certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly. And, for the right person, I knew that this would not fall on deaf ears to the right people, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I knew there'd be people for whom it resonated. And I like that. I don't know. It felt a little subversive to kind of, like, have something that's for only the people that would get it. Like, this song would be lost on a Kevin Johnson, basically.
Kevin Johnson, he took a Bonnie wife. Yeah, Kevin Johnson took a Bonnie wife. When the two lay down to bed, there was a rattle in her head. Kevin Johnson took his Bonnie wife. Kevin had a daughter and a son. Yeah, Kevin had a daughter and a son. And to his son, he told him fight. To his daughter, take your lot in life. When Kevin had his daughter and his son.
We have to talk about the song All the Wine in the World. Closing track. This is a really, really great song. You should be really proud of this. I assume you are.
Thank you.
First of all, at first I thought the line, "I wish I had all the time in the world," was a surprising sentiment for someone so young. But upon further listening, it seems to me this song is the most complete and maybe beautiful statement of the themes of this record. To me, it says you want to be in more than one place at a time, right?
Of course. Totally.
I love the line, quote, "Funny thing happened this last time I went out traveling. Nobody's lives stood still," end quote. This is the dilemma of the traveler, right? Wandering versus staying. Life goes on when you aren't there to share it, right? So can you talk about this song and that kind of theme that's present in a lot of this record?
Well, it was kind of that whiplash of saying yes to everything for a year for my music, in 2017. Like, it was this crazy year of, like, saying yes to these outlandish schemes to try to be a performing songwriter, with no full-length album to my name. Just, like, absurd. Just, like, the craziest thing. And then kind of realizing that was killing me slowly and just settling down and then, like, taking a very deep breath. And yeah, you can't help but reflect on, like, what you missed when you were out and what you missed when you were in,
Yep.
It was that perfect storm of reflecting on what I missed when I was gone and then also what I was missing while being stuck where I was. And, like, mortality is obviously, like, is right there in this song. And I had just found out a friend of mine in Spain was diagnosed with ALS. And he's, like, a dear friend and, like, the most outgoing, gregarious, like, this amazing guy in his 50s at the time, and, like, he's, like, just a gut punch kind of diagnosis that just doesn't make sense, it's like the one person you would think is, above any kind of thing like that.
Yeah.
And that was just really rattling for me. To have to, just to face that,
Yep.
Funny thing happened this last time I went out traveling. Nobody's life stood still. My grandfather tended to his bees in his garden, and we lost him on the first of the year. I'm a woman split between places, and I'm bound to lose loved ones on both sides. It's my life, I can relate, participate, but I just wish that I had more time.
Now, we haven't talked much about your time in Spain, and this is important to you. You have spent a lot of time over there, and I know you consider it a very important place in your life. Do you see yourself kind of in two places at once as a creative person? Is there something about your life in Spain that you associate with a part of your creative self that is different than who you are in the West Coast, say, creatively?
That's interesting. I think more than anything, like, my experience living in Spain is more of like a testament to the magic of music and how I was able to like crack into this community over there because of music, I mean, the way it happened, it was just like, it was like gasoline and matches. Like, it was just like I don't know, a flame to gasoline. It was just like I showed up somewhere new, and it was like nothing could come between myself and music, It was like, I was in a band within 3 weeks of moving to Spain.
Yeah.
And I was in another band, and then I was in the good band.
Yeah.
And then we were recording my first time in a studio, and then I was cutting class to make my record, like make my first EP, and go play shows and this and that, and it was just like, it's cool to like be in a new context and still see music as kind of the nucleus of it,
Yeah.
And just the opportunities that came my way because of my love for music and like paying it forward in some ways,
Yes.
Just like, okay, they want to hear me sing Janis Joplin. Okay, I'm going to give them this gift. Begrudgingly sometimes, but like, this is like, I can do this. This is the trade, right? Like, I know how to sing this song. Like, I will do it.
Yeah.
But I actually also, like, with country music, it's so localized in place, and like the tradition is so very much rooted in place. But I've always thought country music took itself too seriously, and I hated that. It's like, there's a world beyond Texas. There's, and there are pastoralists everywhere. Like, it's just interesting. I just
won't.
always...
That's a blasphemous statement. I may have to edit that out, but we'll let it go for now.
Don't let it ride. Yeah, I'll get the haters.
When I hear you talk about Spain, I'm going to paraphrase here. It seems to me like you felt like something was born there in you creatively.
I think I felt permission to own music as part of my identity. And just, there were a couple hard things about living there, but also just like giving myself to joy and just enjoying people and music, that was just, it's not a bad place to have a good time. I'll say that much. So that was part of it too. I like writing. I like being on the go. I like seeing myself in new places and reflecting and writing as part of my traveling,
Yep. Yeah. So when we talk about the tensions in some of these songs about, the traveler's dilemma and time and space and distance, do you think you are more drawn to wanting to spend more time specifically in Spain and in Oregon and the West Coast, or is it more the pull of travel in general that is pulling at you?
I can safely say I don't know where I will be.
Yeah.
In the future. I don't know.
That's great.
Yeah, I don't, I just don't know how it will all unfold, you know?
Yeah.
It's
exciting.
I actually just went back to the Basque Country. It was my first flight since COVID, and I got on a plane, and this is just in November. This is over Thanksgiving, actually.
To Spain.
Yeah. And I hadn't been there since December of 2019, so it was like 2 years later, I guess. And I went back to sing in a benefit concert for my friend Jaime, who has ALS, and it was like this kind of full circle with that. But, you know, I'm walking around the town there, and I'm bumping into people I know, like you would in any town in which you've lived that was small enough to, like, have that. You know, and it's just like I'm like that neighborhood person that often has a guitar with her, you know?
Right.
I exist in that form to the people of Bilbao, and that's really interesting to be like a neighborhood person that far away, you know?
Right.
To exist in that. That's just really, it's funny. I don't know.
Well, maybe you could do that somewhere else someday.
Maybe I can, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I have to cut you off, Margo, because I think I've taken up almost enough of your time. This has been great.
Fine,
I could go on for a while. I'm going to finish up with one question, if that's okay. So these songs on this album were written a few years ago, most of them, right? So I assume you've been writing since then, and you have new songs or working on new songs. Are there ways in which your approach to songwriting, do you think, has changed over this time? Are you trying to do things differently, trying to get better at certain things? Has it evolved in any noticeable ways for you?
I have written quite a few songs since COVID, and I am kind of, it's like if my next record is a chunk of marble, I've like picked up the chisel.
Okay.
And I mean, so much of, like, you know, the confusion of COVID, the just being unemployed and pacing around. I mean, a lot of these, it wasn't about like songwriting practice as much as like just survival, you know? So I can't really say a lot of it was that. I didn't have to think too hard about songwriting. It was a comfort to me during the pandemic. Like, playing my guitar felt good. I had lots of solitude, which is nice for that. It's very strange to have released professionally one album worth of songs and then look at my writing from that other side, you know?
Yes.
And it's quite a trip. And I'm excited. I don't know. My influences, like, you can definitely tell I was living in a small town in rural America on my next batch of songs. I will say that much.
Okay.
And I had a Diamond Rio CD in my car stereo. So it's kind of a weird time. It's definitely, I'm not putting out a contemporary jazz record. I'll say that much.
All right. Well, we look forward to hearing those songs as well, and maybe out on the road sometime. Right?
Yeah, I know.
Hopefully next year we see you out here in the Midwest sometime too.
Evanston. Let's do it.
Yes. All right, Margo.
Yeah, we'll wait for the weather to clear up, but I will be out there.
Well, thanks so much for taking this time. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you. Thanks for your interest in the record and for, I just appreciate you digging in.
Yeah.
Wish I had all of the time in the world. I wish I had all of the time in